All right, all right. My guest tonight is the guitar player and one of the singers of the rock and roll band, the Carolyn. Their debut album, This Will Begin to Make Things Right, is available right now on Spotify, and it is doing some impressive numbers. I welcome Andrew Patrick. Welcome to
Howdy.
Locked on the Block, man. How you living?
I'm trying to hang in there during these very uncertain times. Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I really wanted to rush to get you on sooner rather than later because I feel like all eyes are on Georgia right now, and you're in the Atlanta area. Like, what does it look like down there as far as lockdown with, and it's been reopened, so I know it's not locked down, but does anyone give a fuck? Like, what are people taking care of themselves? Like, what's the deal in Atlanta right now?
Yeah, in spite of much of the bad press and arguably deserved press that we've maybe gotten, like I do feel like the majority of people still care. For instance, like if I go out and get takeout or something at a restaurant, the majority of people are not elbow to elbow at the bar, nor are they allowed to be. I kind of feel like we've been forced to take things into our own hands a little bit, and people are trying to be as smart as they can. But, unfortunately, there are a lot of institutions and jobs that people can't maintain that 6 foot distance, but that, it just kind of comes with the territory of being an essential worker for some people. But yeah, I don't know, man. Trying to hang in there and figuring it out day by day, like every other state, I suppose.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been interesting up here, especially because the push is starting where the majority of people are like, reopen now, and they're starting to protest. I mean, I think by Memorial Day, you're not going to be able to keep people off the beaches and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
But we're all kind of looking to Georgia to see, like, I mean, it's not New York City as far as the density level, but, are we going to see a bunch of cases now from the reopening? I mean, are people like wearing masks when they're out, or are they like up here, like you have to wear a mask to go into a store? Are people taking it upon themselves, or are they just like, hey, whatever, man?
I would say it's 50-50. When I go to the grocery store, there are definitely a fair amount of people wearing a mask, and you'll even see in traffic. Like I think we drive a lot more than you do in your area, and when I'm like looking over my shoulder at someone and traffic, like even people will be wearing it inside their car, which I don't totally understand.
We were laughing at that here too.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say it's about 50-50. Some people are and others aren't. Yeah.
I mean, I want to definitely ask you. I mean, you're in a band that like things were really starting to coalesce around. Like all of a sudden, you guys drop this single, then you drop this record. Buzz is coming. You're now getting really good offers. You're playing shows with cool bands that you look up to. You're getting international gigs, and then this fucking shit hits, and it just puts an end to everything at this moment when like you get all this momentum. Like, what do you do to come out on the other side of that? Like what is the focus now, or is it going to be? Are you still promoting your album to some degree, or do you have to now switch gears to think about taking a different approach?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, and something we talk about as a band on a daily basis. Obviously we're promoting the record in every way we possibly can, which is for sure a challenge, considering we can't play on it. But I'll say this: aside from perfecting our craft, like that's the main thing, right? We're just all trying to individually practice right now, because we haven't gotten back into the practice space in the traditional sense, and we're each respectively, writing new stuff. Aside from that, we've actually been really, really fortunate to have a good support system, both from a label perspective, but also from the people who have given us some of those offers. Like shout out to Stefan. He's been like, look, this is out of our control. Could you, you're more than welcome to come back to Germany next June, and we'll just pick up the pieces then. So I don't know, man. It's a weird mix of certain things being put on pause, but also it's an exciting time because now it's like, okay, we have nothing else to do but lock ourselves away and get even better as individual musicians.
So you guys haven't been able to rehearse as a unit, or is there a way because there are some bands I've seen doing it safely. Like my friend's band did a live stream the other day where they had the luxury of being in a large space where they could be far from each other. And it's just interesting to see that because we tried to do like a Zoom, like my band practice from our individual locations, but with like latency and Wi-Fi and people being wired in and others not. Juan, my bass player, was like a hair behind on the
Sure. Yeah.
transmission. So it just sounded so funky. We're like, all right, we're getting headaches trying to do this. But what
Yeah,
were you
for
guys able to
sure.
do?
So the closest thing to that, at least Ollie and myself have done have been just bouncing different ideas back and forth, like via iPhone voice memos. And I think hopefully relatively shortly we'll slowly crawl back into the space, but we're all in a position where we have to think of other people other than ourselves.
Of
We all have
course.
our families, and each of us is taking care of our family members and stuff like that. So I try to be as careful as I possibly can, especially considering that I still have a day gig and, I come in contact with people every day. Um, Ollie and Dave, for instance, might not have the same work situation as me, but I would never want to put them at risk either. So I'm not waiting for this to blow over per se, but at least gain a little more perspective in regards to where I stand as far as putting others at risk.
No, totally, man. I mean, what do you think the future is going to hold as far as, with a state now like Georgia that's leading the charge in reopening? Logic would dictate that you guys might have bars and clubs and all these things open before a lot of the neighboring states even. And how do you think that will affect live music? Where are they going to start, if the doors are open there, people from the neighboring states are going to want to go where they can play and possibly make money. Is that going to increase competition, you think? You think it's going to go more DIY? Like, what do you think the future holds?
I don't know, man. As far as like live entertainment goes, my personal opinion is I just don't see how that's even going to be a possibility prior to a vaccine. It's one thing in a bar or a restaurant setting where you can say, okay, you three people sit over there, you three people sit over there, and blah, 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 and we're going to roll the dice, and even that's a risk. But I just don't think that just the fucking liability of it, right? Like, let's just say a club says, you know what, DIY indie band or whatever, like we're opening our doors, we don't give a shit, we just want a band to come play. Like, we're not talking about some huge headlining national touring act, right? Like, if it were to come out that X amount of people got sick at that show, that would be the end of that band and the end of that club, and maybe rightfully so. So I don't know. I just don't think it's I personally wouldn't feel ethical like putting on a show right now until a vaccine is out.
No, I think that's definitely the right attitude. But then you got to look at it in the context of a vaccine may never appear, or it could be 5 years, and things are just going to start to some degree. So then how do you maintain awareness of the band as a brand, but still avoid situations where you feel like you're being put in a position where you don't feel comfortable doing it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think yeah, I wish I had a really insightful answer for you,
Yeah, I
but
don't need one.
as far as brand awareness, or in our case, band awareness, if you will, well, I mean, the internet is really the only tool, or the most effective tool, I should say, that I think we have right now. And I'm using the general we, not even just us three. Um, and I think it's actually a cool time for music in kind of a weird way, because people are getting really creative with live streams and exclusive content, and maybe stuff they had on the back burner that they wouldn't have otherwise released, but they're doing it now. And I've seen a lot of really great things that our peers have done, and saying, hey, we're putting out such and such song, and the majority of the proceeds are going to go to this organization or whatever that benefits COVID relief. So that's pretty cool to kind of see people use their art to contribute to something positive. But I don't know, as far as like a timeline for a vaccine release date, who's to say? I mean, I think one of the challenges too, outside of entertainment as a whole, is trying to decipher what truth is. In this day and age, like, some reports have said, okay, by January we're gonna have a vaccine, and then I'll read something else that's closer to the timeline that you're suggesting, and like, dude, I didn't fucking study epidemiology. Like, I have no idea what is actually. We're kind of at the mercy of the experts, or in many cases, people who have lack of expertise to kind of take the reins on this. So, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had some more an insightful answer for you, but we're like everyone else, taking this day by day.
Well, so when the vaccine drops, is it going to be a mandatory thing? There are so many people who won't even take a measles or a polio vaccine, which defies reason. But, I guess they
I sure hope
haven't
so. I
been in an
mean,
outbreak.
I really, really hope so. But yeah, dude, man, like I'm a simple guy. I buy Budweiser and wear steel toed and work on a dock, man. I'm not qualified to speak on this.
You're drinking Miller over there, man.
I
saw
am.
you
I
earlier.
am. I'm cheating. I'm cheating on my first love. Actually, I think I've graduated or devolved, depending on who you ask, to Miller Lite.
Look, Miller Lite is a fine product. I'd prefer that over MGD or Miller Low Life any day, man.
I like that. That should be our new record title, Miller Low Life.
Dude, that's a good one. You're welcome to take it, man. I got
I'm
no
going
grips
to.
on it, you know.
I'm going to. Maybe you and I will put out a split.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. We should do one where we cover each other. Those are
Yeah,
always
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I've been doing these. Have you done any live stream stuff? Like I've been doing 5 o'clock every day East Coast time on not every day. Excuse me, every Thursday I've been doing them. But you guys just doing single shit, acoustic, or?
Yeah, we haven't done our own routine like in that way. Like there's been some cool things that we've gotten to be a part of. Like for instance, I think we did the first round of Boatless Booze Cruise, which is something that Stefan, the guy in charge of regular Booze Cruise in Germany, has put on to sort of help sort of contribute to relief for some of the clubs that are being negatively affected by COVID in Germany. So that was really cool. And some other people have reached out and said, hey, will you submit an acoustic song or whatever? But as far as actually saying, you know, at this time on this day, we're going to get behind the camera and just go live on Instagram, that's something we haven't, or I should say that's something we're still fleshing out, and trying to think of ways to actually make that, I hate to use the term interesting, but sort of like rise above, like something, like make some sort of novelty or like something actually special to our brand that people will gravitate towards, as opposed to I'm just playing some songs. You know what I mean?
Oh hell yeah, man! I mean, I've been doing it from my bedroom for 5 weeks, but I'm thinking going forward. Yeah, myself. To make it more interesting. I'm thinking about like trying out a different location acoustically and whatnot. I mean, but it's also I'm in a tiny apartment in New York City, so it's hard to like
Sure.
space,
Well,
you know?
one thing with yours that I saw that I actually really appreciated about your live stream was you opened up with two songs that, you know, I grew up on and people already know. So it's like, I think this is a time where bands could get really creative. Like, okay, on Thursdays, you know, I'm gonna do like a Foo Fighter set or what insert any band, you know, that's just off the dome. But you know, I do this on this day, and then I'll take requests on Monday or whatever. That's something that all of the guys that we look up to could start doing as well.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it's been a cool time for like live streams and podcasts. A lot of people who typically don't do a lot of interviews now are going out and they're doing them on these split screens on Instagram and whatnot. So it's like interesting.
I absolutely love the Brian Fallon Sitting at Home series where he's just delving into songwriting with some really cool people. I think that's been awesome.
Yeah, the litany of guests that he's had is definitely impressive. Definitely for people who enjoy the craft and the art of songwriting, it's been really cool. And then
Sure.
even Jesse Mallon's been doing really interesting ones where he's playing one day, he's taking a lot of requests and doing songs, and then another day he's interviewing people as well. Like I know he was on with Joe Sib, he was on with Jimmy G from Murphy's Law. There's been a lot more content to watch as far as like the journalism side of music than I think there's ever been, you know? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
so that's pretty killer. But I mean, to focus away from career shit, like just how are you feeling in these days as just a human being, you know? I mean, just witnessing a time that you never ever considered you'd probably be living in, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and where your anxiety is validated by it to a degree, because I feel like mine may have been a little, you know?
Yeah. One of my closest friends, when this first started happening, I said, this is basically just a dress rehearsal for the end of the world. And, you know, I was just like, fuck off. Like, this is going to be fine. Like, I was definitely, like many, when this first started, kind of, I hate to use the term like naysayer, but I did not think this would have gone to the level that it did. And yeah, man, it's like, okay, so we get a vaccine and this blows over fine, but what stops the next outbreak? You know what I mean?
Exactly it. Well, what stops it is actually having epidemiologists in positions where they have the grants and they're able to research these things and stop the next, you know, incursion on the human race from it. Because it's not always just going to come out of China. It's very easily can come out of Brazil where there's deforestation, or Australia or someplace else, you know?
Sure. But now you're speaking to a larger issue about like reforms that need to take place. You know what I mean? Was reading some article recently, and it was basically like, going back to what we deem to be normal or normalcy isn't the answer when this is all over. Like this really needs. We should use this as a lens to critique the world that we were all living in. You know what I mean? Or else we're just going to perpetuate the same fucking problems and the same institutions that in my view, hold progress back. So
I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we can ever go back specifically to the way that it was, because it was just consuming ourselves into oblivion. I mean, just the little things with the skies being clearer in Los Angeles than where I was just in Venice, and now you see the water is so much clearer than it was. I've been to Beijing, China, where it's like Mordor from Lord of the Rings, where you get off the plane, you can't see 5 feet in front of you.
Sure.
And it smells like 1,000 idling trucks at all times, on certain days because of their elevation. So it's like, this could have just been a warning shot from nature, across the bow to be like, next time it's going to be Ebola or something like that if you all don't get your shit together,
Sure. Yeah. I agree, man. I hope it's hard for me to speak on it because yeah, I don't know. There was something that George Carlin said right before he died, some journalist said, do you think humankind will ever turn the ship around? And he said, absolutely not. The ship pile's too deep. And as much as I don't want to believe that, I think in my heart of hearts, that's how I kind of think.
I find solace in looking at old Carlin specials that I grew up with on YouTube, and they're still just as relevant. Like nothing,
oh, absolutely.
I shouldn't say solace. Like nothing has changed. I think it just vindicates that he was definitely right about the things he was pointing out. And it's just I think people in general are just sliding away from being that intuitive and thoughtful, I mean, they just can't wait to get back to the fucking lemon tree, and they're going to stand outside with a gun if they can't get in and get their bangs cut. It's insane.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've tried my best to be positive over the last month and a half. It really hasn't even been that long. That's what's so crazy is like this has had a huge, obviously physical health impact, but mental health impact as well by those infected or not infected. And in reality, I mean, we've been dealing with this at least here since late March or mid-March. And, it feels like it's been way longer.
Oh yeah. My internal chronometer is completely fucked. I mean, I can only liken it to being like 9/11, but that was very different, where it was like a before and after. It just seemed like you just ended an episode and went into a new one. And
sure,
January seems like it was 7 fucking years ago. Like more than ever, that stretch seems like real, where it's just, you just changed the world. I mean, we were just in Atlanta last time I saw you in February, and even that seems like such a foreign time now, like,
yeah, it was a different fucking world. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of crazy.
We were crammed in that studio with like 7 people hanging out. That'll never be the case anymore. I mean, I know the man who's running that is like, no, it's going to be 2 people at a time when we reopen, from now on. Like that's right. You can't have a full band live in a room. It's crazy,
And it just goes to show now, like we have to think about our loved ones more than ever. That's why I've been so hesitant to get in a room with my own fucking bandmates again. It's just because, my dad has a ton of underlying health issues. And yeah, I don't know. I just, going back to the whole mental health thing, like if a loved one or someone even that was just an acquaintance got sick and I was around them, my first thought, like, was I the reason, and it just, you can't think like that because at the end of the day, this is so far beyond an individual's control. But
I completely agree with you. I actually, I was very sick. I don't know if I had it. I couldn't get tested, I could have just had the flu. It could have been anything, but I had a lot of symptoms. Before this was a thing, like before it was on the radar. And then I had an aunt who passed away, and I went to the wake where I hugged my uncle. And again, before this was a thing. And then 3 weeks later, he came down with it, like at the beginning of the wave. And I was like, oh no, like, yeah, but who knows? You know what I mean? Like, it's
right.
There's no contact tracing to go back at this point, But do you find it's that the gravity of it and it being in the zeitgeist around you, that it's entering into your work as a songwriter? Because I found the first couple of weeks, references to this era was seeping into my songwriting, and then I kind of got to a place where I got that out of my system, and now I can indulge in other types of stories and whatnot.
See, I think that the latter is super important. Excuse me. Yeah, I I've really tried not um to incorporate any of these themes into my the little songwriting I've done over the last month or so. I just feel like, I mean, I could be completely off base on this, but I mean, I've heard songs that have made reference to this thing, and when you're just talking about how fucking miserable you are because of COVID, I don't know what that creates. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
miserable that you are because of COVID is a point of view. There's other people who are enjoying this. Certainly, there's people who are just callous. There are people who they're not bad people, but they are enjoying the ability to be detached from what they were doing. They're collecting some money so they can be artistic. So they're maybe not in that time space, but you are a person who you're still supporting yourself on a dock per se when you're not, because you can't play. So does that change the reality for you, like where you are viewing it through predominantly a negative lens, where you're not trying to find any hopeful silver lining, and when you're working things out subconsciously?
yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like mental health has been the foundation, or has been like the overarching theme of all of our material we've released thus far. And COVID or no COVID, that's going to manifest itself in the songs. And just for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm not going to like throw this pandemic into the songs. I would rather use like the songs as a vehicle for like exploring myself and my relationships and mistakes I've made. Um, in sort of like a cathartic way, just to try to get over it and be a better person. Like I said, man, I think I've seen a lot of bands write about the pandemic specifically, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just, as of right now, I don't want to really contribute to that dialogue, because it just doesn't seem particularly productive to me. You know what I mean? Um,
So no Tiger King songs going to be on the next one.
No, no, not at all. Like, it's one thing to reference or make mention of like where you're currently at in your life. Like that's fine. But like, I like, I've heard bands like the whole song is about, oh, everything is horrible because of this and blah, blah, blah. And like, poor me. It's like, dude, life is a lot bigger than just you. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, you can't go hang out with your friends at the bar. You know what I mean? That's more what
Yeah.
I'm speaking about, more of like the superficial impact of it, as opposed to like how it's going to affect the rest of the course of human history. I just don't feel particularly inspired to complain about my social life being put on hold. You know what I mean?
No, I think you got the right attitude, man. Totally. I mean, it sucks for I miss my social life to the effect that I did enjoy the places that we got to go. And it sucks that those institutions, many of them have now closed down permanently, because in this city where it's so unbelievably expensive to like maintain an address and have a business, that those places you can't return to. Were there a bunch of places going under in Georgia that were permanently shuttered? Did places not make it through even the brief time that things were shut down, or think things have kind of turned around?
Well, I mean, I can definitely give you examples of places that that have said yes, we're not coming back. Fortunately, it seems that a lot of businesses have been, I don't know if saved is the right word, but given hope by like the CARES Act. And don't ask me any questions about that because I couldn't tell you the specifics. I just know I've had friends and family who have applied for that, and their businesses have been helped by that process. But yeah, man, it's I think it's tough to correctly answer at this point. Like, yes, I know for sure that there are several that aren't going to make it through this, but at the same time, but what's been really cool is like, people have been supporting their neighborhood bar, their neighborhood restaurant, myself included. I order takeout more now than ever, not only as a way to like support them and support the people I care about running those joints, but also as like as an escape, man. Like even just that 10 minutes out of the house to go pick up food and say, hey, thank you for what you're doing. Like, I'm going to leave you. I mean, I always tip well because I know how difficult that industry is, but like, hey, like here's a little extra because times are shitty right now and it's good to see your face. You know what I mean? And hang in there. Like that to me has become way more important. Like I always took like going out for granted, and now I definitely don't.
Yeah, I definitely subscribe to that too. Like Jimmy and Goodfellas, you got to tip everybody,
Yeah,
make sure they remember
exactly.
you,
Exactly.
But yeah, I've been cooking myself and my wife just much more than I think we ever have. We're trying, because it's just takeout's just so expensive here. It's another
Sure,
thing,
sure.
and then the
Like that's
delivery fees on top of it are exorbitant. So I mean, we are obviously doing a little bit of takeout, and we got one of the greatest pizza places in all New York City right down the street. So of course we're gonna hit that. But
hmm
in general, the one thing, and I've probably mentioned this in every episode now, it's just we now have to go beers like they have in Europe and Vegas and New
yeah.
Orleans. So that's been a good way to support the local bars. And unfortunately, it's only the ones that also serve food and have a
hmm
food license. So I mean, ones that weren't doing that weren't able to just ship margaritas to your house, unfortunately. But
hmm
that's been a cool thing. And then to have it decriminalized to walk around with it and not get a beer ticket, that's like awesome. And people have been responsible. I'm not seeing a lot of trash in the streets, and I'm not seeing bar fights anymore.
Sure,
People
sure.
fighting on the corners. So
At the local level, this whole situation I think has definitely contributed to a sense of community that I really appreciate. And sometimes it's important to kind of look in the mirror and not take certain things for granted. I know it's a super like lukewarm statement, but
no, but it's true. It sucks that it's always a disaster that really is the
right, that
glue that
brings
brings
people
people
together.
together.
um, but yeah, to get back to the original point, it's like food, whether it be like cooking in my own house or like getting takeout a bunch, like I sort of feel like has replaced the social life, for lack of a better term. Like it's something that I really have appreciated and look forward to over this last month, and it's been a something that has just contributed to my overall sanity.
True that, man. So getting back to the LP, this will begin to make things right. Now, is that a Star Wars reference?
It is, yeah. And I was really averse to naming the album that initially, but there was something about like just phonetically the way it sounds, and like when we all explored the themes of the album as a band, it was just like, okay, although this is a little bit, we're getting in the waters of maybe being a little too cheesy, like it kind of makes sense. And the last chorus of Ollie's song, it's just like that's the one line that I think has always kind of stuck with me. And yeah, I think thematically, it just made sense to call the album that, even though, during leading up to the process of recording that album, it felt like everything was going absolutely wrong. Uh, I don't regret uh, having a little nod to Star Wars, even if it's
Yeah.
shitty Star Wars.
Well, that first line, man, boy, was he wrong.
Yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
you look at it in
Yeah.
a meta sense, that was where things started to go off
Well,
the rails. Certainly.
actually, you know what? Maybe it's more fitting that way, because like we named the album that, but there's so much like we look back and it's like, not. I'm not even just saying as far
And
as
that
like,
guy's dead now. Who said that too? Think about
oh,
that.
I didn't realize. Oh fuck.
In real life.
Um. Yeah, yeah, but it's kind of ironic that, yeah, like he said that, and in my opinion, new Star Wars is not so great. And there were a lot of things that unfolded in our personal lives and relationships with each other as a band that were not so great either. So like I think we all thought going into the album like things were going to be perfect, but in reality it's like, no, it's the same old dog shit wall to wall.
But you got, it's definitely a great record though, and I'm always telling people to check it out. And I'm
Thank you. I
pulling
really
for you all
appreciate
then
that.
because I can't wait to hear the next one. And I want you guys to achieve what my band has never achieved, which is have the exact same staff on 2 albums in a row.
Oh shit. Well, I think it's important, man. I think there's something to be said for like consistency within your lineup.
Totally. It's just tough. Sometimes it just never coalesces that way, or you have lightning in a bottle at a moment, but it's just, those personalities create that unique thing that can't be created otherwise. But it's also inside it is the causticness that tears it apart too. Like
Sure.
it's interesting. So any band that can be like you too and have the same 4 members forever, I strongly commend, because there's not many of them.
Yeah, definitely not.
But no doubt, man. I'm just I don't know, man. I kind of ran out of questions.
No, no worries. No, dude, I actually really enjoyed this. We're just talking, hanging out.
Yeah, hell
And
yeah, man.
you took my Zoom virginity. This is nice. I was like, what the fuck is this Zoom? Why is everyone using this? Like, what's wrong with Skype? And now I see why. This is way better. No bugs.
It's really good when you have two people or three people. It's really good for conferencing. It's good to catch up with people. When you start having 9 people and your screen looks like the fucking intro to the Brady Bunch, it gets a
Oh
little
shit.
crazy.
Huh.
It's just hard for 9 people to maintain the composure to not be talking over each other and shouting, and especially we're all having Zoom happy hours and drinking, and it's starting to get
Sure.
away from us a little bit. But it's been a really good medium that I think it really found its footing in this situation. And the Zoom was, I wanted to do a podcast for a bit, but I haven't had like a concept, and I was like, well, this is the laziest way I could possibly do it. We go on to this, and then boom, we're recording and we're fucking rocking and rolling, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, this is nice, man. And I kind of did not deliberately ignore your advice, but I'm not close to the router, and I always have problems with video chat. But you know what? I'm gonna fucking roll the dice on this one once again. And
hey, you look good over here, man. It's
yeah,
coming through clearly.
yeah, Zoom is not giving me issues like Skype and Facebook chat and FaceTime have. So this is rad. So thank you for.
Have you fucked with House Party at all? Just for like shits and
I
giggles?
don't even know what the fuck that is, man. I'm illiterate.
It's like another type one where like people in your contact list are like always in these rooms, and then you can find them and jump into their room and start chatting with them. And but there's like no doorman. There's no way like anyone can keep you. You could like jump into your ex girlfriend's room or something if you wanted to,
Oh,
and all of
okay.
a sudden join their conversation. So it's funny, you know. Like,
Okay, I'll check it out. I guess I
you
need
know,
to get some friends first.
I'm sure you got a couple floating around there somewhere. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, you and what else do we know?
I'm gonna try to get Peter on this too, but I'm trying to like mix it up. I want to like come around and get people from different regions and different areas because I really want to
Sure.
explore, you know, through the lens of how is this looking to people who are living in different geographic sections of the country or the world, you know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important, and my situation I think starkly contrasts yours. Like I can't even imagine what it's like in New York right now. Like my best friend lives in Brooklyn, and
Yeah, I know.
you
Yeah,
met David,
yeah.
and yeah, dude, it's just like my anxiety level would be exponentially higher if I was in the same situation as you both.
See, I found that my anxiety level kind of decreased because I feel like I was anxious in the world as it was, and that certain things that I was doing as precautions completely translate into this situation, and I'm like more at ease, like things that I've always been doing, just
Sure.
avoiding big crowds of people as best I can. Like obviously I'll still go to shows and I'll dance in the pit, and you know, I go to big social gatherings and I go to parties and whatnot, but I try to never go grocery shopping on a busy day, you know, like and things
Sure.
like that, you know, and I avoid places where people are sick as best I can, you know. So like
Sure. Yeah.
to that sense it's been cool. But I know his neighborhood particularly is very busy. It's very touristy, and like it is quiet. Like I ride my bike through there, you know, for exercise, and it's incredibly less traffic than it used to be to a degree. At the bridges are major choke points where it's still overly crowded in the waterfronts and whatnot, where people are definitely ignoring the guidelines.
Hmm.
But in general, you know, it's crazy, you know, but it's also you hear the sirens in the distance, you know what I mean? I guess it must have been like when the British were getting bombed during the Blitzkrieg. If your block's not blowing up, it's like you're okay, but like it's all around you, you know, and it's like
Sure. I guess that it contributes to this feeling of being desensitized to a large degree. And maybe, because I've been working through this whole thing and you're kind of in a cramped warehouse, you do the best you can, but after a while it's just, what, like, fuck it. Like,
and also, you know, someone has to have it to give it to you. That's another thing, you
right.
know. But are you're constantly in close quarters with people, or do you at least get some space to yourself?
Yeah, constantly is maybe not the, you know, best way to put it, but it's like I guess
You need two guys to load a truck sometimes. You know, you
no,
can't
no, no,
get,
no.
you know,
I'm running that show
really.
myself. Like that it gets actually really intense. But like, I'm not working in close quarters with people, but like, you definitely have human interaction, whether it be a driver or a freight handler that it comes up to you and is like, hey, I've got this for you. And there's just so many scenarios where that 6 feet of distance is just not
No.
possible.
You always got to have your own pen, number one, so you're not
Right.
touching theirs. That's
Absolutely.
the first thing, you
Absolutely. You
know.
know what I mean? It's just like, it's just one of those things. But to your point, yeah, someone has to have it. And I feel like at this point, if one person in the warehouse did had it, I seriously doubt that every single person in our warehouse is lucky enough to be asymptomatic, and the company is very serious about social distancing, like outside of work, because we all know we have an important job to do. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel that any of us are being irresponsible or whatever. We ship medical supplies, so it's just something we have to do. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, it's one of those things, man. We try to be as safe as we can and go home. And like I said, I go to my bedroom and I go to work and I go to the grocery store and I get takeout, and that's about it. You know?
I worked in warehouses in my 20s, man. And I mean, warehouses are not the cleanliest environments, but I remember the bathrooms were just terrible. Like if
Oh
doing
yeah.
this, I would not want to be. That's where the breeding ground for cholera probably is, let
Oh,
alone.
exactly. The thing is, it's like that was the majority of my experience leading up to this point. But even like 6 months ago, I feel like this specific site that I'm at really took a huge turn in terms of like cleanliness, like trying to like, okay, every spot of this warehouse is going to be perfect. And at first, like there was this like feeling of like, screw this, like we no, this is a warehouse, this isn't a museum. But now, like in hindsight, I'm super thankful. Like everyone, including myself, is definitely like, okay, we got to wipe down everything, we're sweeping every day. It's definitely an anomaly in terms of all the warehouses I've been in. So yeah, shout out to corporate for for predicting the future 6 months ago.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, like I said, it's been interesting here. It's been, you know, the most interesting reaction I've seen is how, Queens, where I'm in the Queens Brooklyn border, there's so many different types of neighborhoods where literally just a couple of blocks, it's such a different flavor. The architecture is different. The people living there are different. We've got everybody from all over the world speak. On my street, you're going to hear 9 different languages any time of day you're ever walking. And it's just interesting that certain neighborhoods are ghost towns and certain ones, people are just like carrying on like they're in a care. And it's
Sure.
interesting because it's all over the news that certain neighborhoods have higher concentrations of the disease than other ones because of the precautions they're taking or not taking. And yet people are not really mitigating their risks in those neighborhoods still. It's like wild. I mean, I was out this weekend and I passed through one area that's, pretty popular as a big park along, and the whole bike lane along it, you could look into the park and just see soccer games, barbecues, like people in closer contact than maybe they should be.
Hmm.
And enforcement's definitely been enforced in an unequal way here. I would say like neighborhoods that have a lot more community reach and have the ability to fight arrests aren't really getting ticketed so much as maybe the neighborhoods where people are a little more poor and not as well off.
And that makes sense, and that resonates to like a larger problem we have as a country. You know what I mean? And I feel like this pandemic is really shedding light on the socioeconomic issues that we still have to reckon with. And there are times it feels like we never will reckon with them. You know what I mean? That's what's it's just the insane thing about living in America, man.
It
It's like
is.
it's been the constant, like throughout our country's history, it's been the constant tap dance of enlightenment and progress and regression. You know what I mean? And obviously, if you have any sort of conscience, you hope the former will win. But um, yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah,
I
it's
think
it's
yeah,
kind of discouraging to see shit like that for sure.
it's Mike Ness and social distortion, man. You're taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back all the
Yeah,
time. Like
always.
it's just it's a terrible thing, man. I mean, well, what else is getting you through it, man? And you found any cool new bands? I know I've been on a Spotify like buffet, like just finding cool new stuff to rock out to left and right.
Yeah. So initially, I was like just podcast all the way, and I still am. Definitely Brendan Kelly's "Road to the Skeleton Coast" has been just like my heroine over the last month. As far as like new stuff goes, see, I'm always like kind of late to the game on stuff. There's actually this. You're gonna be like,
That's
dude, you're
fine.
fucking lame. But there's this. I don't know what genre it is, right? I don't know what you call it. If it's like SoundCloud rap or trap or what. I don't know the term, right? But there's this guy. His name is Saint John, and he's like this 30-year-old uh, Guyanese. I don't know what the word is.
You
He's
call him
from
West Indian, West
he's
African,
he's
whatever.
Guyana. It's some country in South America. So sorry, I'm not well read. But
Oh,
anyway,
it's all good, man. The Guyanese have a huge population here in Queens and like
okay, this
Ozone
guy,
Park area.
I'm in love with this dude. Like he literally just has such a profound understanding of melody. Like people can hate on the genre all they want and think it's illegitimate or flavor of the week or whatever, but like I'm actually learning more from like a top 40 like rap artist when it comes to like song structure and melody. I am a lot of like my heroes these days, which is kind of crazy.
Well, that's all that friggin' Epitaph is signing now is basically like emo rappers, SoundCloud rappers,
Yeah, but some of the
weird
signings, like
protest
I
stuff.
couldn't even like tell you the names of the signings, but some of the stuff that I've seen on the roster lately, I'm just not into at all. Like it's just not me.
I agree.
But this
Yeah.
this guy, man, like I don't know. He's been out a couple years, but I just came across some of his music. He was actually doing a live stream or like a quarantine session, if you will, and I'm like, this guy's the shit. Like this is amazing. So I really like him right now. I love Grimes' new record. She's in the press a lot right now because of the
Because she
name.
named her child an equation. Yeah. So.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Like living in 2020, you see like headlines and clickbaity, titles for shit. Oh, Grimes in a line, but I don't even fucking click the thing. And like, yeah, I'm
I
not
I
phased
don't know anything
because
about it. I don't know anything
famous,
about it. Adele's weight up or down. I
no
don't know anything.
famous person does ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
It's fucking cares. That's their business, not mine. Whatever they want to name their kid. But her new album's awesome. She's been one of my favorites for a long time. Slowly been getting into Spanish love songs. Late to the game on that too, but they are really fucking awesome. Trying to think of what else, because I'm actually finding myself listening to music more and more because when I was going through the rat race, if you will, or just the malaise that we were all in pre-COVID, I just wasn't finding myself like in this need of having to have like a new band to fill a void. I'm just kind of like, wake up, go to work, sleep. But now I feel like there's a lot more free time in my hands, and I'm trying to fill it with new music.
Yeah, I typically have like one or two bands that I'm always super into, and then I'm always like, decorating the rest of the dinner plate with like 30 other ones that I'm in and out
Sure.
of, well, from not just bands but artists, singers from all
Hmm.
sorts of genres, whatever. And I feel like, like a band that I study and that like I really like to enjoy everything about them, read as much as I can about them. So like Bad Religion, then Afghan Wigs and AFI, Gaslighting Anthem, just
Sure.
bands like that where
The
like,
pillars, if you will.
yeah, deep dives into where I'm interested in actually hearing what they have to say, and every member. I want to see interviews with the bass player and the drum tech. How do they treat him, and how was his job and whatnot, and what do the guys eat? What do they? I find all that like super interesting. But right now, I
Sure.
don't have a group like that, and I'm kind of not just filling that void with like a lot of smaller, more interesting ones, I guess, as
Sure.
opposed,
Well, I don't know if you were ever into them as much, but I'm telling you, man, like the new Brandon Cali podcast is like goes really into the detail about the chronology of their band and where they were in their lives with each release. And he doesn't even just dive into Lawrence Arms stuff. He dives into obviously the Falcon and the Broadways
Oh,
even.
what was that
So
other fucking band they had? Sunset something or
Chris McCaulkin did a solo acoustic thing. I forget what year he started it, but he was doing Sundowner.
yeah, that I
Uh,
love that record. That's a real. I
yeah.
couldn't think of the name for a second. I loved it
Um,
and then forgot about it till right now. So
right. But yeah, they
re-listen.
discussed that on the podcast for sure. But Chris thus far has not been involved in the podcast. It's just been Brendan and like, I don't know. I mean, they're like my favorite fucking band. So I'm like really biased, but
You guys should cover fucking Beautiful Things, man. That would be huge.
that's it's funny that you say that because that's probably in my top 3 favorite songs by them. And on the most recent Bad Religion tour, where Ollie and myself actually got a chance to interview them, we walked in the sound check, and that's like he's playing the riff to Beautiful Things.
Yeah, I
I'm
saw
like,
that interview. That's fucking awesome. I forgot about that, but yeah, it's
yeah.
awesome.
So like it was just like a real surreal moment. Obviously, like um, for many, it's like, okay, you interviewed them, so who cares? Like, yeah, they're really approachable people, and like, granted, that's totally true. But they've been my favorite band since I was like 12 or like 13. You know what I mean? It's just it was a real trip for sure. But yeah, long story short, that podcast is great if you have any interest in that band.
I'll definitely check it out. I love the term "the Skeleton Coast." I've always like wanted to do a song called that anyway, because that's a cool term. Like East African coast where you just die if you get shipwrecked there, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Um, but yeah, man, it's such a good question. I feel like I've been diving into a lot of music that I normally wouldn't, but I'm just drawing a blank here. What about you?
I found this band from England called the Luca State that I think is so Luka State.
Okay.
They're just fucking sick. Um, a little before that was this band called Rad Horror that I've been kind of chiming for a little while. It's really good from LA. Um, and then I had this whole there was this band called geez, I can like see it. Like I see them really quick and then I save it and then I go back. I'm also finding in my older age, like new information isn't sticking in my brain so well as it used to.
Oh
And
yeah,
that I'm
same.
having trouble retaining just simple things like names and song titles that I would know. I used to be able to know a name, song title, who produced it, what year it came out, the track listing, the time, all that shit. Now forget it. It's
Dude,
like
I'm
out the
I'm the
window. It's
worst with
terrifying, you know?
yeah.
Like
I'm in the same exact boat. Ooh, I'll tell you a band that I always liked but have gotten back into. Um, Given the COVID times is Zeal and Ardor.
Zeal and Ardor. Okay.
Have you heard of them?
No.
They're this metal band, right? And it's this guy, I think he has dual citizenship or something, but I think he's like half Swiss, half Canadian, but he lived in Brooklyn for a while or something like that. I don't know. But it's basically this project that tells this tale of like revisionist history in a way. He was apparently inspired by the Norwegian black metal scene of the '90s and sort of how that was a response or a reaction to Christianity being forced on the Scandinavian people. He was like, well, what if the same thing occurred in the 17th and 18th century South, where slaves didn't subscribe to the Christianity that was forced on them, but rather they turned to the devil. And so yeah, so like all the
That's an
songs.
interesting take.
So essentially, he's written all these songs that are satanic spirituals, and it's the fucking gnarliest shit ever, man. You have these like all the guitar work is definitely like what you like analogous or similar to like Norwegian black metal. You know what I mean? It's heavy, but like I don't know, the vocals are just like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like,
Really, I
um,
definitely fell off on metal, man. Like it just now it makes me tired. It's too much.
yeah,
You
I
know?
don't listen to a
I
ton
don't
of
know.
heavy music. I have my staples, like stuff that's just kind of ingrained in me from growing up in a certain time
Yeah.
period. But I don't seek out new metal bands. Like Zeal and Ardor is the exception of the rule. And the only reason I gravitated towards it was per recommendation of Ali. And just I think the concept is cool. And I've always kind of been enamored or infatuated with all things occult. And yeah, so Zeal and Ardor, can't say enough good things. Like that band rips.
Oh man, you should. Yeah, cult is definitely big up here, man. That's definitely the Witches of Bushwick are definitely in effect, and hopefully the Kingsland is a cool venue that pulls through. There's always like just you're into that kind of stuff. Next time you're in New York, if things are open, there's just so much to do as far as like that scene with like
Cool.
witchy type metal and rock and whatnot. Covering coven songs or whatever they're doing.
Sure. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's all that comes to mind as far as new music goes.
Yeah. Luckily, every Friday on Spotify, something that I'm not looking for will find me, and that's always cool. Even like old bands from back in the day, this band Dramarama from 1990, I used to dig when I was skateboarding. Just put out a new record. I was like, I'll give it a listen, and it's fucking really good. I was like surprised, This band Soul Asylum I grew up with just put out a fucking new record that's really good.
And Spotify will just like put that in your feed or whatever.
Yeah, it'll give you like a list of a couple of the new releases that dropped this week, and then you know what it is. So much like 30,000 songs are uploaded a day, and I think Fridays are like double that amount sometimes. So it's a lot.
Which is why
there.
I've actually heard it's bad to schedule your music to drop on a Friday, because it's really really hard to kind of rise above.
Yeah, I feel like
that's going on.
I agree. I feel like you need to schedule it for a Friday to potentially get on the new release. If you're going to be one of the people like who gets in the NFL draft of Spotify and you get selected to be in their curated new release playlist, it's got to be a Friday, I think.
Sure. Well, there's definitely the
and
New
that's why
Music
everyone's
Friday.
doing it.
Yeah, like there's the New Music Friday playlist for sure, like that editorial. But if I'm not mistaken, that is maybe a little bit more important and significant for mainstream in quotes artists.
As the mainstream fluctuates from 21 Pilots sounding stuff and Billie Eilish sounding stuff to when it's going to turn around to something else at some point,
Sure, yeah, and like
there is a
I'm using
change in the
that
sound
term
already,
right, and I'm using that term very loosely. I guess what I mean to say is for people like ourselves who enjoy rock and roll in the traditional sense, maybe a little bit less relevant. And if you're at the very least trying to get on a niche like editorial or something like that, like a skate punk editorial, like like who cares if it comes out on a Friday? You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as if you don't get ratioed down because dropping it out on Monday, they don't put you on a list or something, then that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fully understand all the mechanics of it. I just every week someone's got
nutty.
a new tip. Like
yeah, it's definitely nutty for sure. It's almost like any information you find about how like an algorithm or something works, you'll find another piece of information that contradicts that. So at some point, you're just gonna be like, "Fuck it!" Like you can't rely on that sort of thing to dictate your decisions.
Plus, it's interesting. I feel like they do. There's the one curator, but then there's so many that are custom tailored that are based on what you may have checked out left and right. So the algorithms are really weird. But I'm noticing with alternative type rock and even some of the punk stuff, like it's kind of going into like a late 90s kind of sound where it reminds me of like You Steal My Sunshine from Len or something like stuff like that.
Oh man.
Like there's like a disco 90s influence, like OMC, like How Bizarre kind of sound to some of the newer stuff that's coming out. So I guess it's only a matter of time before people start referencing that in early 2000s stuff, in their work. Because those the kids who grew up with that are the kids who are on the road right now, if they could be on the road,
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, I hope you have the capability of editing some of this.
I don't edit shit, man. This is raw dog. The whole fuck.
Shit. Okay.
You're getting the sun is definitely setting on you though. It's definitely getting dark.
Oh man,
you had a long ass fucking hard day, man, and that's cool, man. It's all good. I think you've been really great and articulate, and you definitely answered any question or anything I needed to know, which is awesome.
I appreciate it, man, because after like 10, 11-hour shifts, your cognitive ability starts to wane.
That's always the time we go to practice too, but that's when you get in the zone too, and you get nice, and subconsciously you rock,
Yeah, that's never worked for us. We get hammered and argue at that point in the night, specifically.
We try to keep it, party a little bit, but never too much, because you don't want to start getting like hostile and whatnot.
Oh no, we don't start off that way, and our hostility is definitely not rooted in anything genuine. It's always like ribbing each other or fucking jonesing each other or whatever the term is.
But I think every band's got that ritual where there's definitely a certain go-to for fucking with people. There's a certain language to it within each band that makes it like your own language and shit, which is always interesting,
Yeah.
Dynamics of that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lexicon. I don't know how intelligent any of it is that we have, but yeah, I think we kind of fall victim to what every early 20-year-old person does, which is just we communicate in memes, which is ridiculous, but I digress.
Yeah, look, they've got their place, Yeah,
I hope maybe that'll be the post-COVID world is like that. Niche humor will go away finally.
Hopefully there'll still be a sense of humor. I feel like that's kind of
man. Yeah, that's the
getting
truth.
drummed out of things. I'm saying at least during the COVID thing, the thought police are not as in charge anymore. You're not seeing Twitter mobs annihilate somebody because they fucking said something that, could have been innocuous but blown up the wrong way, or they legitimately fucked up. You're not seeing that because I think people had a reality check of what the fuck is really important. Is health is more important than wealth. And, I haven't heard calls for people to lose their jobs because they said something wrong. People are having calls to lose their jobs because they're letting people die, like that's more important,
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to speak on as a whole because for one thing, sort of as a little side note, I am Twitter like illiterate. Like I don't understand that world. I probably should utilize it more as a platform for our band, but
it's a platform for screaming into the void. I think even for your band, the only good thing that can come of it is it gives you an ability to interact with famous people or other people who maybe aren't famous that you have no other way of getting to them sometimes. you know, maybe you want to talk to some kind of manager or somebody, just even ask a question. It doesn't need to be like a glad handy type shit. It does provide that medium if people are willing to be accessible to it. But a lot of it is just poison for your mind and your eyes. Certainly.
Well, even when that platform like first came out, I remember I'm old enough to remember when it was first released, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't like every thought. I think this is maybe the problem, and sort of resonates or speaks to the culture you were referring to. Is every thought I have doesn't need to be expressed. You know what I mean? Like, it is not. I don't understand. There's this mentality
Dude,
now
you're
that
right.
you think turns to gold, and some shit you should just keep to your fucking self.
No,
You
man.
don't have to have a goddamn opinion on everything, and that's why I guess that Twitter never appealed to me. But
No, but you're right, dude. If I expressed every opinion I had, I'd be sleeping on your couch right now.
well, the thing is 90% of mine are uninformed. I'm really good at saying a bunch of flippant shit that I don't stand behind at all, just because like it is not my life's aspiration or goal to say a bunch of right things. And I'm not talking about the political or the social sense. It's just sometimes like I'm in like, man, this pizza sucks. And 2 weeks ago I was like, this joint is the best pizza joint I've ever been to. It's just like whatever my mood is. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
yeah, the human experience is subjective. Your definitions of right and wrong are fluid, and
mhm,
as you age and as you progress, your definitions and the way you looked at things, as you gain more insight or choose to close yourself off and gain less, change the way you perceive things. So, I mean, that's totally normal for everybody, any day of the week. So, like,
mhm.
I think it's healthy to a degree to be evolving, certainly, and to shut the door to certain things. Look, who's got time to fuck with everything? Like.
That's true.
I'm never
That's
gonna
a
get on
good
TikTok,
fucking point.
like
Who's got time to yeah. I feel that sentiment on such a deep level. Who's got time to fuck with everything?
exactly. I don't need
Yeah.
to be. I like to know about as much stuff or be in the conversation where anyone brings up to me something. At least I have some kind of frame of reference for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, I'm never going to be on TikTok. I'm not going to be on
I don't understand what I
the
can
one where
gather
you
is
watch people play video games. I'm never going to be involved in any of that shit. Like
right. Well, that one is a little more easy to like the premise of that. I can at least like comprehend, I think, and I understand the appeal. But like, I couldn't tell you what TikTok is. It looks like an offshoot of what Vine was. I'm also old enough to remember Vine, but I couldn't tell you what the uh, the logic or appeal behind it really is.
I guess it'll get bought by Facebook or Instagram, and it'll be part of the
Like,
platforms we do
yeah,
use, and we'll
like
have to
everything else.
assimilate. Like
Yeah, that's true.
I
So
mean,
yeah, I totally forgot where this point A was with that
that doesn't
tangent.
matter. That's the whole thing about it. It's just a conversation, man. You don't
Yeah.
have to. It just let it flow to what it is, and it doesn't even have to be interesting, man. It's just documenting the human experience of being
Mhm.
locked on your block, but you're
Yes.
free, which is good.
Yes. Well, yeah, and I think that's why podcasts as a whole have such a mass appeal, and it seems like the bubble just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the demand for them isn't really waning in any sense. Because yeah, that's the number one form of entertainment that I consume more than anything now, are just podcasts, particularly video ones.
Yeah, I find that
Um,
they're more interesting the deeper they go too. I mean, sometimes you look at like, oh, it's Joe Rogan's talking to some dude for 2.5, 3 hours. That seems fucking daunting. But once they get past that initial, when it's the first time that person's a guest, that initial of, like the shit we just had to go through, the rigmarole of, there's a bunch of interview questions. What the fuck do you think? Yada, yada. And then you just get comfortable and you start like just expressing your thoughts at the moment. That's when you
sure.
get into the real crux of the art form, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm such a fan, and I feel like it's also contributed to my unawareness of current uh trends in it, other trends in entertainment, and even just like dramas that have come out that are actually really important, of like really good artistic merit. It's just like, oh, have you seen XYZ? Like, I think you would actually really like it. I don't have the attention span for it anymore, man. Like, I know there are plenty of shows and movies I need to see, but I'm like, you know what? I would rather watch a conversation that someone that I look up to from an intellectual standpoint has had. And I
Yeah.
don't give a shit if it's 3 hours. Even okay, like Rogan might have someone on that I really respect and I want to see what they have to say, sure. But I'm not even talking about within just the realm of like comedy or whatever that universe is. I'm saying as a whole, like I really enjoy what in the olden days was just talk radio. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think I enjoy that more than anything else these days.
Yeah, is this guy Joseph Arthur? I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Oh yeah, you do because you saw the Brian Fallon one when he was on "Come to Where I'm From."
Yes, dude. Oh my god, I
That guy's
love
a
that. I could watch that
super.
shit all day.
That guy's a super interesting dude in his own right. He's had a really interesting career. He, I really enjoy that man. I don't agree with fucking almost anything he says or any of his like standpoints and certain like practices and
Yeah,
whatnot. But I love the way he's passionate about it. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Well, there's something like really charismatic about the guy. And sorry, I'm trying to get a little bit more lighting on here. I deliberately sat over here to make it better, but
it's all right. If you get too dark, I'll let you know. I mean,
okay.
you're approaching Blair Witch level, but you don't want to go much further. You know?
Let's see if that helped any. It's gonna take a second to load. The lighting in here is to be
You look
desired.
fine. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that guy like
You look like Shia LaBeouf, kind of actually. Which is a good
that's
thing.
I don't know if that's good or bad. But he does kind of give off the, at risk of sounding too judgmental, like a little bit hippy dippy vibe. I know nothing about his career or whatever, but yeah,
He's a new agey artisty kind of guy, but he's also, you know, he's a complicated person. He's not just one thing. He's many things, which I
sure.
like. You know.
I'm not super familiar with his career by any stretch of the imagination, but there's something like definitely captivating about him, and he's super charismatic. And I think for me, that is like, I don't have to agree with everything a person says to consume their art, and I think
Yeah.
that's a trap that many people within my age bracket fall into. Um, and I really don't know why that is. You know, you can take something and from everybody and learn from it and interpret it in your own way. Um,
His Rolodex of guests is super interesting, and because he himself is an interesting person, that really
mhm,
makes and it makes for some really good viewing. And even sometimes I don't have the chance to watch it. I could just listen to it on Spotify, and it's usually pretty engaging. I've only been checked out of maybe a couple of people that it just wasn't speaking to whatever I was interested in that day.
sure,
You know, yeah, he had Mike McCready from Pearl Jam, and it got very much into this whole subset of the art world that I just don't know enough about, and then it just was going beyond me, and I
sure.
lost interest. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But of course, modern art to itself is such a difficult undertaking to understand. I think that takes a lifetime anyway, and I'm so far
Hmm.
behind. You know,
Yeah, I have no context or frame of reference for that world by any stretch of the imagination, man. I like three chord pop songs and stand up, and that's about it.
I'm trying. I'm trying to get more to. I definitely. I'm much more. I've always been more drawn to like the classics. Like I enjoy like Renaissance art and sculpture and things like that. But when a guy like stacks up three bricks in a corner with like a toothpick on top of it and it moves people to tears, that I just can't fucking get because I'm not ready to.
Well,
I guess you know.
it's strange because well, I sort of like detest pieces like the one you just named. I've definitely seen them because probably one of the highlights of the trip when I actually saw you last was going to MoMA. You know, I
Yeah.
thought that was awesome. But there's so much that falls within that category that I actually really do enjoy and think is really interesting. So I probably lean more towards modern art, but I'm the first person to say that's a fucking red square on the wall, and you're not gonna say that it's anything more than that. You know what I mean?
Like
Like, don't.
you painted a refrigerator lime yellow, and it means that
Congrats.
like it's the opposite of the sun now or something. You know, like
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I'm not definitely not a fan of that, but dude, there's a ton that really is moving, and I'm like, wow, definitely worth my whatever $10 or some measly sum that they charged me. That was such a cool experience, man. And apparently they have like Uniqlo Fridays or something, where it's like you go get like a ticket or something from Uniqlo and like you get in for free. I don't even know what the deal
So
was,
if I
but
buy a sweater at Uniqlo, I can get in for fucking free.
dude, I don't know.
That's some good value clothing, man. I can tell you that much.
I will see. I've only ever seen it in two states. Like we definitely don't have that in the South. I've seen it in the Bay Area and California, and I didn't even know that's how it's pronounced. That's how foreign I am.
It's
And
from
then I saw
Tokyo,
it.
dude. So
Yeah.
that's
And I saw it in New York, and that was it. I figured it was Japanese, but once again, we have H&M here.
it's
you
funny.
know.
I went to the Uniqlo in Tokyo, and it's the exact same shit as America, but because their inflation is more ridiculous, it's like a shirt here that would like be a value for $18, like 35 in Tokyo. It's
Oh
like it's
shit.
nuts. Like I couldn't buy anything there. I mean, food and drink was fine, but like I wanted to like get like they don't have T-shirts of the baseball teams, and they have great names like the Ham Fighters and shit like that. But you can only buy like the jerseys. It's almost like European soccer. You know what I mean? Like
Huh.
they don't brand into all the different ways we micro license everything into 1,000 products. So you can't get like a baby bottle with the Tokyo Tigers logo. So I was like just looking, and like a baseball jersey was like $200. I'm like, forget it. You know, not happening.
Fuck out of here.
I got to ride the subway, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, man, I definitely miss New York. I think that'll be one of the first places I revisit once this is all over. I don't know if I could live in New York, let alone the rest of my life. But yeah,
It's amazing
definitely.
what you can get used to fast. And you would miss the 24-hour convenience of it if you had it growing up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, oh man,
Um,
you want anything in the world, you can get it at any time. Like that's the
mhm.
incredible thing about it. But then it definitely got more crowded as I got older. And
Well, I was gonna say, like, what is the existential toll that takes on your psyche after a while? You know what I mean? Like, I just can't. Like, as awesome as it was, like every block there's something captivating and there's something interesting, and like anything you need, like food, whatever, it's just a few steps away. But at a certain point, it's like, I don't want to fucking see people. I don't want to see concrete. Like, this is just too intense. Like, just
Well,
I,
that's why I
I
wrote an
want to
album.
look at a field.
No,
You know what I mean?
that's why I wrote an album called Meet Me in Death Valley. I wanted to, where can I go to get the fuck away from all these motherfuckers, you know, like, but
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Like it can, if on a negative, rougher day, you can get into the mindset of having like, just looking at all the people coming here as invaders and as gentrifiers, and they're just making, I used to be able to go to this movie theater and now I got to buy a ticket online 3 weeks before because I can't get into anything anymore. And this place I used to go to is more expensive now because there's a billion people because now it's popular. That sucks. It's, it's a city where the spot is blown up constantly, but
Mm-hmm.
then you just find the spot that's not busy and you just have to keep migrating because everything's on the move here and you can't get attached to anything because everything closes because it's too expensive anyway. So it is what it is. It definitely takes a toll on your psyche. It makes you a much different person than a person that grew up in even the closest cities. We might have a lot in common with Philadelphia and Boston and Chicago, but we are nothing like them either, and we're nothing
Sure.
like LA
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah, man. It was definitely culture shock, but for me, but one that I expected. So in a weird way, I was like relaxed and at ease with my experience there. But yeah, man, like I lived in a rural part of Georgia for 5 years. You know what I mean? And um, I was used to looking at a field every day.
Yeah,
So
that house Cragen was living in that was built in like 1705. I don't know if
oh
you were
yeah,
over there.
and see, by my
That
standards, that
was
wasn't even that bumfucky. You know what I mean? Like that was actually somewhat close to the perimeter, and you
there's
could
a
get.
field, train tracks. It looked like fucking Stand By Me,
I
like to
know,
me,
I know, but in reality, you can get in a car and be in the city in less than an hour from where
Yeah.
he was. So,
Oh, actually, it was
um,
much closer than that. Yeah, it was pretty close to like the 5 points. I thought. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it
oh
was
no,
that.
no, no. He was southwest. No, he was southeast, and that was so all right. But it
Yeah,
wasn't. I think we got there
you can
under
make good
40.
time any way you slice it. You can make good time, but yeah, but I'm telling you, man, like I lived 2.5 hours south of the perimeter for a good chunk of my life, and literally in the middle of nowhere. And on the flip side, you want to talk about like taking a toll on your psyche, that can too, like total isolation. I think extremes, have their way of manifesting themselves in negative ways. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a part of me that's always going to long for that stasis, if you will, like just yeah, just not having to worry about um, things changing because like life is inherently chaotic and the human experience is just bizarre and nuts, and that's just the nature of being alive. But yeah, I don't know which I prefer, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like I don't know if I had the choice, if I would, or had the chance, if I would go back to that lifestyle, or if I like eventually I want to move on to something more and actually live in a place more analogous to where you grew up. So
Yeah, I feel like also the speed of it over time is making me write slower songs lately. I don't know,
really.
like that could be it. I don't know. at that age maybe where I'm slowing down a little bit with my strumming. Although we're all also recording the fastest stuff we've ever done too. I guess I'm
Hmm.
always going in two extremes at once. I'm always getting lighter and darker. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. Like
Hmm.
that's just
That's
how I work.
interesting.
Because I'm also a person of my own age, but I'm also always a 19-year-old angsty, pissed off person at the same time. In all things, it's an interesting dichotomy, you know.
But I feel, yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that paradox or that dichotomy is just inherent in the kind of music that we're both into because, we like, even though this isn't a band that I'm particularly inspired by much anymore, I feel like they embodied this sentiment really well, which is Alkaline Trio. The
Oh yeah,
songs, the songs are really simple, and the melodies are infectious and very bubblegum, but the content of the lyrics is not necessarily happy all the time. And if anything, it's very very dark. And you
and
want to talk about the
you guys,
occult, like
you
you can
got two
find it.
different guys
Sure.
contributing to that, which you guys have that too, which is really good. You know, like you have two different artists coming in with different views, and it gives you such a bigger uh it gives you like it's a bigger playing field to work on where you can do different types of lyrical content. It's good to like have, do you, when Ali has the songs, does he write his own lyrics too, or do you guys like mix that up, or you
For
collaborate, or?
Yeah, for LP1, that was the dynamic, and I feel like a lot of trios or a lot of bands that have two songwriters, that's usually how they divvy up the work, right? Like, okay, I wrote the skeleton of a song, or I wrote the majority of a song on my own in my bedroom. Let's flesh it out here. This is my narrative, and I feel like that approach is really effective and it's important, and I definitely don't reject it. But going into this next batch of songs, I kind of feel like we've defied that to a large degree. He's written some stuff that I've kind of taken liberties to be like, yo, like, is it cool if I sing this? And by the way, I've written an entire song, and I just don't feel like I'm the person that needs to like tell this story or sing it for several reasons. One being just the song is out of my singing range. But
Yeah, that'll do. You
um,
can tune your guitar down lower, but that's
yeah, sure, but there's get to be a
you know.
point where like I can only do that. Okay, maybe once, but then again, like I mean, I have that's a can of worms that I'll save everybody from going into. But basically, yeah, man, like I feel like the approach to this next batch of songs is just totally different. It's definitely not a segmented part where like this is mine and this is yours. I'm really really excited. I guess is what I'm saying. Um, like I said, I've written stuff that he's going to sing all over, and he's been gracious enough to give me some ideas to work with, and it's more democratic and more collaborative, I think, than it's ever been. Um, which, if it wasn't that way, I don't even know if our band could really continue in a meaningful way. I'm just kind of, the older I get, the more I feel like I'm kind of running out of ideas.
Well, I feel like that certain days too, where I'll have a good span where I'm not writing shit, and then I don't have any ideas, and then I wake up one day, I start jamming, and I bust out three fucking good songs, and then that gets my directions going towards something. I mean, it's totally possible as long as you don't get to a point where like you're just living in two different cities doing two separate things, and you do basically you cut the crap from the Clash, and it's a piece of garbage. That's when you got to recognize that and be like, no, don't put this out.
Sure. Um, yeah, like I've witnessed that happen too over the last month. Like, oh, now I'm feeling myself again. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm about to bust out these things that I really believe in. So yeah, that part of me is still there, I guess.
Hey, Brian Fallon said he had nothing left to say, and then he wrote 45. I mean,
Sure, yeah,
whatever.
and I've been in that situation like 50 times um, over the course of playing music. So not let me rephrase. I've never written anything close to being that good. I'm saying I felt that moment of like I should just go do landscaping because I really suck at this and I got nothing else. But then the next day you're like, wow, I wrote 3 courses that I think has been the best I've written yet.
Yeah, so you have that day, and then you write AM, and then you're like, yeah, you feel pretty good about it, right? And then you put it on
Yeah.
Spotify,
I
and it gets
mean,
100,000 fucking plays. Boom. So hey, like that's got to be pretty validating, like.
well, yeah. I mean, it's cool. Like at the local level. I mean, like, yeah, you like to see that kind of thing, but yeah, I can't really think too much about.
No, don't get wrapped up in metrics. But I feel like you kind of know where when you hit on something and you hit that one kind of great note that makes like your fucking heart stir, and you wrap a song around it. you kind of know sometimes that under the right circumstances, when that gets released, that people are going to feel it, and that's a cool thing.
Sure. Now, I will say now more than ever, because maybe I felt like I've had so many moments of, oh, I got nothing else to say. Now I know when something's good. You know what I mean? I don't, if a song does not just crank itself out within 10 minutes, I am not going to try to, I'm not going to like try to turn water into wine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to just sit here and, if it happens, awesome, let's go with it. And if this idea is not working, I'm going to put the fucking guitar down. I'm going to do something else.
I think that's good to a degree. Definitely. Certain songs do just take a while for whatever reason. And I can tell you, like, we have on the last record that we just did, Fall South, a song that was kicking out for 8 years. And then we did it. And there's going to be one on the next record that was a holdout from that one, and another song from like 6 years ago. Just because you start to compile them over time, and they were good, but the timing wasn't right sometimes.
Sure. But would it be a stretch to say you found yourself in situations where, like, okay, you have like the idea is there, the sentiment is there, you've got the right chorus or the foundation is where you want it. It's just, it might be a structural issue, or like there's something that you gotta, some sort of nuance that you've got to change to make the song fully realize.
You're right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm starting from like, I can't even get the foundation where I want it, I can't get like this if I feel like I'm going through the motions, I won't do that for 8 years on a song. I'll just say, you know what, like, fuck it, I'm going to go to the next thing. Now, sure, have I had a chorus kicking around for a long time and I just couldn't find the right structure to copy and paste it in, for lack of a better term? Absolutely. Like, that's always going to happen. But I won't sit and try to write a melody that won't write itself.
Yeah, I mean, funny thing is that for this one song, White Spiders, which we tracked for the new record, that's me kicking around for a long time, and it came down to that was going to be on Death Valley or this song Flatline. It was one or the other, and we were playing this gig with Story of the Year, and some dude chucked a 24-ounce beer like this into my friggin' guitar while we were playing that song. I'm like, all right, this song's getting shelved. I don't know. Like, that wasn't the only reason, but I was like, all right, that's a deciding factor. Maybe if there's a song we're playing and a crowd gets restless and throws beer at you, then all right, that's
sure.
That's
a good litmus test for not only music but just anything in life. If you're getting shit thrown at you, maybe stop what you're fucking doing.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's fun to be the Blues Brothers too, and fucking have a bunch of bottles thrown at you when you're
that's fair.
So whatever. But hopefully, nothing like that ever happens to you anywhere. Europe's a lot nicer than it used to be here towards punk, so you guys should be okay.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think we could lock it down now. I think we've done good, man. And
yeah, we hit well over an hour.
Yeah, sweet. You've gone longer than anybody, man. You're long and strong and down to get the friction on, and I appreciate that, man.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
All right, man. Well, dude, definitely keep rocking. The Carolyn is a sick band, and I'm definitely, proud to be label mates with you guys, and to definitely keep telling people to check it out because, like I said, those songs fucking crush, man. And I wouldn't just blow smoke at their ass. It's good shit.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. It gets kind of, like I said, discouraging in these times where I don't have a whole lot of social interaction. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, man, you can hit me up anytime you want.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start a podcast and have you on.
Do it. That'd be awesome. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna say goodbye now, and it's been real, man. Thanks a lot.
Peace.